I was standing in line at a hardware store in Flagstaff when my phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. No name. No introduction. Just one photo. A child's drawing. Crumpled paper. France. My name scrawled in shaky blue letters at the top. To Mommy. I stared at it like it had teeth. Because I don't have a child. And I never told anyone that, 7 years ago in a hospital room in Boise, I'd given birth to a baby girl and signed the papers that said I never had. I swore I'd never speak about her again. It was supposed to be closed. Erased. But here I was, holding a piece of my past that was never supposed to resurface. My fingers trembled as I tapped to expand the image. There was more. A second message came through. I think she looks just like you. My stomach dropped. I scanned the store. Nothing but an old couple browsing birdseed, a cashier arguing with a barcode scanner, and a teenage boy kicking the floor behind me. No one watching me. No one who should know. But someone did. My hands were sweating now, gripping the phone like it might scream. A third message came. A photo. A little girl on a swing set. Auburn curls. Dimples. A crooked front tooth. And eyes. My eyes. White. Pause. Familiar in a way that made my chest physically hurt. This wasn't random. This wasn't a mistake. This was a secret I'd buried deep, clawing its way out of the grave. I drove home in silence, the kind that buzzes behind your ears when your thoughts are too loud to hear anything else. My phone sat face down in the passenger seat like it was cursed. That girl. That drawing. Those eyes. No one knew. No one. I had been careful. Precise. I gave her up under a closed adoption agreement. Sealed records, no contact, no name exchange. That was the deal. That was the rule. So how the hell did someone find me? My apartment in Prescott hadn't changed in 3 years. Beige walls. Second-hand furniture. No photos. No stories. Just silence. The first thing I did was check the front door. Locked. Same as always. Then the windows. All shut. Then I picked up my phone again. I opened the text thread. Nothing new. But something about it, it didn't feel like a stranger. The tone wasn't threatening. It wasn't cruel. Felt familiar. Like someone testing the water before diving in. I scrolled up. Read the first message again. I think she looks just like you. Like you. Not like her. Not like the child. Not like a cold reminder. But like a whisper from someone who'd seen us both. I tapped the info button on the number. Blocked ID. Burner phone. Of course. I should have let it go. Should have deleted it, turned off the phone, thrown it in a drawer like I did with every other ghost from my past. But I didn't. I typed one word. Who? Read. No reply. I waited an hour. Then I made a mistake. I searched for adoption records online. I knew they wouldn't show me anything. I wasn't supposed to have access. But I looked anyway. Nothing. But then I searched something else. The name I gave her at birth. Juniper. It wasn't her legal name, I knew that, but it was what I whispered before they took her away. The only name I ever said out loud. And there was. Facebook post. From a woman named Grace Linney. Mid-40s. Sweet smile. Teacher at a Montessori school in Sedona. Can't believe my baby Junie is already 7. 7. My heart stopped. I opened the profile. Public. Wide open. Like a window someone forgot to lock. Photo albums. Birthday parties. Playdates. Halloween costumes. And in every one that little girl with my eyes. They named her Juniper. They kept her name. That's not supposed to happen in closed adoptions. Ever. I should have closed the browser. Should have stopped. But I kept going. Scanned every comment. Every tag. And that's when I saw it. A man. Trim beard. Green flannel shirt. Arm around Grace. Holding Juniper like she was made of glass. And his name. Dr. Callum Myers. I knew it instantly. Not because he was famous. Not because he was a friend. Because he was the doctor who delivered my baby. And he was never supposed to know where she went. My ears rang. Dr. Callum Myers. I hadn't seen his face since that freezing morning in St. Joseph's Medical Center 7 years ago, when he told me I was making the right choice. He was kind. Professional. Detached. Exactly what I needed. Or so I thought. But now. Now he was smiling in family photos like he belonged there. Like she belonged to him. I sat there for what felt like hours, scrolling through post after post. Every smile. Every cake. Every school concert. And him, always standing a little too close. It made no sense. Doctors don't adopt their patients' children. It's unethical. Illegal even. So how did he end up in her life? Unless that was the plan all along. My hands shook as I opened my old email account. The one I hadn't touched in years, the one tied to my hospital file. Password reset. Then login. There, buried beneath junk and outdated newsletters, was a thread from 7 years ago. Subject: Adoption Referral Follow-Up. Sender: G. Linney, Sedona Family Services. My breath caught. I clicked it open. Hi Evelyn. Just confirming our intake call today. Please remember, all closed adoptions are final, and no future contact will be made unless explicitly agreed upon by both parties. If you change your mind before delivery, let us know AE. Our chosen family is already pre-cleared. Warmly, Grace Linney. Grace. The same name as the woman now posting birthday photos with my daughter. She wasn't just the adoptive mother. She was part of the process. She had known who I was. And worse, I never chose her. The agency was supposed to send profiles. Let me decide. That call never came. No one gave me names. No faces. No choice. And yet there she was. Raising my daughter like it was all above board. Like nothing had been stolen. And Callum, the doctor, he was tagged in every other post. Not uncle. Not friend. Just the. Over and over. It clicked. Hard. Ugly. They kept me out on purpose. I wasn't just cut out of her life. I had been replaced in it. The knock came at 2:14 a.m. Not loud. Not urgent. Just wrong. I froze in my kitchen. Lights off. Barefoot. My phone buzzed again. You're close. I can feel it. No name. No context. I stepped back from the window, heart hammering like a warning bell. Whoever this was, they weren't just watching online. They were here. I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor with my back against the bedroom door, kitchen knife in one hand, phone in the other. But no more messages came. By morning, the world outside looked normal again. Birds, sprinklers, joggers. But I knew better. Someone had come to my door in the middle of the night. Someone who knew what I had buried. Someone who wanted me rattled. And it worked. But not how they expected. Because fear has a shelf life. And mine had just expired. By noon I was halfway to Sedona. It's only 2 hours from Prescott. Long enough to think, not long enough to talk myself out of what I was about to do. I had no plan. Just a name. An address from Grace Linney's publicly listed tutoring business. And a photo of a girl with my eyes. That was enough. The GPS led me to a red adobe-style house tucked between juniper trees and wind chimes, with a sign out front. Little Roots Learning Center. Private tutoring and enrichment. Of course. She turned her home into a haven. A curated life. Organic snacks and yoga mats and parenting books on the porch. It was all a performance. I parked down the street, hands white-knuckling the steering wheel. Then, like I was stepping into someone else's skin, I got out and walked up to the door. Rang the bell. One chime. Windy silence. Then the door opened. There she was. Grace. Hair pulled into a practical braid. No makeup. Barefoot. The kind of woman who says, nurture instead of raise. She looked at me like she was trying to place me. Like I was a memory she didn't expect to see in person. I spoke first. You kept her name. She flinched. The moment lasted 3 heartbeats. Then her voice came, soft and practiced. Evelyn. I wondered how long it would take. No denial. No excuses. Just an admission folded neatly into those 8 words. You knew, I said. You knew who I was and you kept her anyway. Grace stepped outside, closing the door gently behind her. Like she didn't want voices to carry. It was supposed to be closed, she said. But you left a mark. The way you looked at her, when they handed her to you even just for a minute. I knew you'd come back one day. Her voice didn't crack. Mine almost did. That wasn't your choice to make. She nodded, lips tight. For a moment I thought she might cry. But then her expression shifted, not regret. Control. You signed the papers, Evelyn. You gave her up. I took a step closer. My shadow crossed her porch. I signed what you handed me, drugged, exhausted, bleeding. Grace's face went flat. You're not the only one who loves her, she said. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about ethics or protocol. This was about possession. About a woman who saw something she wanted and took it. When I got back to the car, my fingers were shaking too hard to start the engine. So I sat there staring through the windshield and called the only person left who might remember what really happened. Nora Bentley. My old nurse. She'd been in the delivery room. She held my hand when the contractions tore me apart. She was the last friendly face I saw before signing my daughter away. I didn't know if she'd answer. She did. Evelyn. They lied to me, Nora. Silence. Then a breath. I know. Nora's voice was smaller than I remembered. I sat in my car, engine off, heart thudding against my ribs like it wanted out. Tell me everything, I said. She sighed. Long tired. Like she'd been waiting 7 years for this call. You weren't supposed to be a name on a form, Evelyn. You were a scared kid doing something impossible. We all knew that. My throat tightened. The street outside Grace Linney's house swam in heat. Then why didn't anyone stop it? Another pause. Because it was never meant to stop. Nora told me the parts no one else would. About how Sedona Family Services worked unofficially with St. Joseph's. About how private agencies got early access to vulnerable mothers, young, poor, alone, women who wouldn't ask too many questions or have the resources to fight back later. It wasn't legal, not really, she said. But they made it look legal. So no one raised flags. And the worst part? Grace had her eyes on you from the second you checked in. You were what they called a clean case. No parents around. No partner. No lawyer. Just alone. My stomach flipped. I remembered the clipboard they handed me. The pen. The way no one explained anything, just nodded like I was doing the right thing. I hadn't placed my daughter with a loving family. She'd been harvested. Nora's voice dropped lower. You want to know about Callum too, don't you? Tell me. He wasn't her husband back then. Not even close. But he was part of it. Quietly. Behind the scenes. People like Grace, they need doctors to sign off. To make everything look clean. My mouth went dry. So he knew. He knew. And he got paid. The call ended with one last sentence from Nora. You were right to run back then, Evelyn. But you're even more right to come back now. That night I didn't go home. I drove to a Motel 6 off Highway 17, where the walls were thin and the lights flickered like nervous ticks. I stayed up researching court records, adoption policy, medical license databases. What I found made my blood run cold. Dr. Callum Myers was no longer practicing. His license had quietly lapsed 2 years ago. No explanation. No news coverage. Grace Linney had once been investigated for irregularities in placement procedure. But no charges had ever been filed. They were careful. Surgical. And yet they missed one thing. Me. They thought I'd vanish. But I had come back with a name, a voice, and enough fire to burn it all down. The courthouse in Yavapai County was quiet that morning. Polished floors. A bailiff sipping from a thermos. The kind of stillness that made you feel small. But I didn't feel small anymore. I had a folder in my hands thick with evidence. Nora's written testimony. Copies of medical records. Call logs. Photos. Emails. And my own affidavit. Signed, notarized, sharp as a blade. Petition for reinstatement of parental rights and request for emergency review of adoption fraud allegations. My case wasn't simple. It wasn't clean. But it was real. And I was done being erased. Grace didn't know yet. Neither did Callum. But they would. Because this wasn't a whisper anymore. This was a wrecking ball coming through the walls they built on my silence. 3 days later they were served. According to the process server, Grace didn't even flinch. She took the envelope like she'd been expecting it. Like she'd trained for this moment. But Callum? He was spotted at a gas station 20 miles away the next day, packing his car like a man ready to run. Good. Let him. Let them both try to vanish the way they made me vanish. This time I had the truth on paper. And they had a child who deserved to know who she really came from. The hearing date was set. The judge fast-tracked it, citing unusual and urgent circumstances. And that's when the news broke. Some intern leaked the filing to a local reporter. Within 48 hours, it hit regional media. Whistleblower mother claims child stolen through medical adoption fraud. There was no photo of me. Just my name. A sketch of the events. And a flood of comments. Some believed me. Some didn't. But it didn't matter. I wasn't doing this for belief. I was doing it for Juniper. The day of the hearing, the courtroom was full. Small town, big drama. Grace wore beige. Her hands never stopped moving. Callum sat stiff, eyes red, lawyer whispering in his ear. Me. I stood. Boop. Not as a victim. Not as a ghost. But as a mother. I told the judge what happened in that hospital. The way the forms were handed to me. The way I was kept in the dark. The people who never should have known where my daughter went. I laid it all out. Then I placed the folder on the desk. Closed. Let the paper speak too. When it was Grace's turn, she started with tears. She gave her up. We followed procedure. We loved Juniper, still do. But her voice cracked at the wrong time. She overacted, underexplained. And the judge. He watched her the way a hawk watches something about to lie. It wasn't over that day. These things take time. But I walked out of that courtroom with something they never expected me to find again. Power. 2 months later I got the call. The investigation had escalated. Licenses suspended. Depositions scheduled. And 1 week after that, I received a letter. Not from a lawyer. Not from a court. From Juniper. Crayon handwriting. Folded 4 times. Dear Evelyn, Grace told me you were a bad dream. But I dreamed of you anyway. I hope we can meet soon. Love. Junie. I sat on my porch, letter in hand, sun warm against my shoulders. Not dead. Not erased. Just beginning again. You can bury the truth. But if it has a heartbeat, it always comes back.